Hello and welcome to Health Exposure. I'm your host, Kurt Hill, and today we'll have a very interesting show. In fact, when I tell you the title, you may want to get closer. You certainly won't have to turn the television sets up higher. Losing PMS and smooth sailing through menopause. And of course, our person that will inform us today about a lot of this is Deborah Arneson, somebody I enjoy having on the show. Hi, Deborah. How you doing?
Hi, Kurt. I'm great. How are you doing?
Well, actually, pretty good. This is an interesting subject, and also one that I'm sure you get asked about a lot in your practice,
Sure.
and certainly I do in mine. But having never experienced PMS, what is it?
I hope not. Well, PMS is noted by certain symptoms, and most women certainly know, and men are usually the reciprocators of those symptoms. We notice most women might have bloating, extreme moodiness, either a week or so prior to their cycle or during the cycle. Lots of cramping tends to be one of the PMS symptoms, and certainly breast tenderness, and either alternating with heavy bleeding or very intermittent light bleeding. So there are a number of different symptoms. Cravings for chocolate are certainly common. That's one of the things most women really recognize is like, okay, my period's coming. It's time to load up on the chocolate. My cycle's upon me.
Oh, so actually there's some truth in that. I didn't realize.
Well, actually, the craving for chocolate is, there is a reason for it. And the reason is when your body goes into your cycle, you start producing excessive estrogen generally, and when you produce more estrogen, your metabolism actually increases. It goes up, it speeds up. When it speeds up, you require more fuel or energy or calories. So women typically go for chocolate, which also happens to be high in magnesium. And magnesium is necessary when you're going into your cycle as well. You need more magnesium to draw more calcium into the tissue, which reduces uterine cramping. So you go for chocolate, which contains magnesium, but it also conversely contains sugar, which robs your body of the B vitamins, vitamin C, and all trace minerals. So though it contains magnesium, it also wipes out magnesium.
Oh, that's very interesting. My goodness.
Yeah.
How are PMS and menopause related?
Well, PMS is basically a warning sign that there is a hormonal imbalance in the body. So if you have these symptoms, that simply means that your body chemistry is upside down. It's just not balanced correctly. And there are reasons for that, which I know we'll get into here shortly. So if in fact you're having a problem with PMS as a young woman, you can be guaranteed that your transition into menopause will probably not be smooth sailing, as we call it, or sometimes and oftentimes a very hellacious transition for women. So what you need to focus on is balancing your hormones. And you do that by following a certain, basic cleanup process or a one-by-one step process. And balancing your body chemistry is done basically by balancing your diet initially. And then you can do some additional, infusion of progesterone and things like that down the road.
Oh, I see. So how does a woman rid herself of PMS and troubled menopause?
Well, the first thing that I do in my practice when I work with women is we take a look at their symptoms and certainly do very clear-cut assessments for these women, and then we decide on how to balance their body chemistry. Most women, most of the time, are carbohydrate junkies. They eat tons of carbohydrates. Now, that's understandable. We've been told for how many years not to eat oils or fats. So in the 70s, we cut out butter and eggs and things like that because cholesterol is a problem. In the 80s, we were told to look out for red meats and things like that. So everyone, dropped all the red meat and all those viable proteins that contain tons of trace mineral and good oil, some of them. And then in the 90s, we were told basically to lose everything except carbohydrates because carbohydrates contain no fat. But the problem with that is carbohydrates, Kurt, contain a lot of additives. They're processed for the most part. When we talk about carbohydrates, we're discussing healthy carbohydrates like our fruits and vegetables over here, and whole grains. Those are beneficial and they're very nutrient dense. We're not discussing carbohydrates that come in a package or a bag, that sit on a shelf.
That's true. That's right.
Those are processed and they're dead foods, basically. They contain little to no nutrients. So we're looking at our American, female culture here, basically consuming tons of bagels and coffee and things like that that just bring nothing to the table or take a lot out of the body. So you have to really watch your body, what you're putting into your system, and balance your body chemistry by bringing in proteins and bringing in good oils. No one eats oils anymore. Everyone's terrified of avocados and seeds and nuts and things like that. So,
now, of course, you're going to tell us where these good oils come from, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Well, you know.
Of course.
Where, Kurt?
We won't need Deborah anymore.
Here he is. those good oils, in fact, come from our raw seeds and our raw nuts. Now, you'd have to eat a huge quantity of raw seeds and nuts to get the available oil, because you know when you eat a nut, it's relatively dry, most of them anyway. You certainly need some water or something to wash them down. But if you take the oil from those seeds or nuts and you take that oil in a pure, unprocessed form, then you're deriving immense nutritional value from that food. And these oils, in fact, are the precursors. They come from cold water fish like salmon and tuna and mackerel, from our cold weather soybeans, you know, so our beans like our soy and our navy beans and things like that, as well as our nuts and our seeds. And these oils from all of these different foods in concentrated amounts, like a teaspoon or 3 teaspoons a day or 2 tablespoons a day, provide your body with enough energy, A, to break down your fat, which helps to balance your body chemistry, providing you're lean, you know, you actually feel better, you have an easier transition when it comes to menopause, and we can get into that later too. But the oils, in fact, will help create a precursor situation for creating hormones in the body. If you don't have your oils along with trace minerals together, your body can't even begin to make your hormones in the correct amounts.
I see.
So everyone's walking around manic and depressed, and what they really need are oils. PMSing, you know, terrible menopause, and everyone's avoiding these unsaturated fatty acids. It's the saturated fats we want to avoid, not the unsaturated.
Deborah, you know, this is the amazing thing, and I often sit here in complete amazement. But what you're actually saying to us is that many of the women in America who suffer from PMS, or for that matter univocally, could allay this problem simply through diet?
Oh, sure. I see it every day.
That's extraordinary.
I had a woman who walked in today. She's like 32 years old. She's had PMS since she started cycling when she was 12. So 20 years. Terrible PMS. Craving like crazy, moodiness, crying, you know, just wow, wow, up and down. And she sat in, and she's worked with me for only 3 weeks. And in the course of that 3 weeks, now she has her cycle coming up in a couple days. And she said, she looked at me like this. She goes, I can't believe it. You know, and I said, can't believe what? She goes, I can't believe that I am not nuts. And I said, well, it just so happens that, you know, your body is really working with this well. It really needed your good oils, and it certainly needed more protein. And you got rid of the coffee every day and the diet soda every day, which literally wipes out all those good available nutrients. Those are actually little banditos. They're highway robbers. They come in and stick your body up and go, give me all your vitamin C, and give me all your B's while you're at it, and give me all your minerals. So if you're consuming what we call anti-nutrient foods, you're creating a worse situation for yourself. So if you're in the throes of menopause and you're in the throes of really bad PMS, they are very much related. You simply need to balance your body chemistry, and by doing that, you will see amazing differences in A, cravings, your mood swings, and how you feel.
So with
There's
good oils,
no miracle cure here. It's so simple, it's stupid. It really is. It's so simple, it's just like, hello. You know,
so with good oils, you can just slide through menopause.
Kind of, yes.
Yes, that's okay.
Yeah, we should have said smooth sliding through menopause with our oils. Yes, absolutely.
Oils are creators of progesterone, along with specific trace minerals. Right. What does all that mean?
Well, without the good oils in your system every single day, now I'm not just talking about when your period comes, you go and take a couple teaspoons or tablespoons of oil, or when you're going through menopause, you do it randomly or without, you know, due diligence. You must take these oils and infuse them into the body every single day. So when I eat, for instance, I take what we call an omega-369 blend, and I just literally don't heat it. I don't destroy the molecular bond in the oil. I keep it pure and simple. I drizzle it on my meat, or I drizzle it on my fish, or on my rice, or my vegetables, and I take it pure. And I'm actually very generous with my oils. I see how beneficial it is to women. I see women who have not avoided fats in their life, how beautiful they look when they age. I see how wonderful and smooth their menopausal, you know, changes are. And I'm like, I want to be like that. And, you know, and I see how women are once they start infusing oil into their life, and how they change from a personality standpoint. It's like the missing link. You know, it's the most important nutrient in America today. So what was the question again?
I have one, however, before we go on. Yes. That I know I'm going to get asked after the show, and I want you to realize that this is a very serious question, and that is that we talk a great deal about women having menopause, but I get a number of men asking me if there's such a thing really as Male menopause.
There is.
Okay.
And again, it's all hormonally related. Remember one thing, Kurt, and our viewing audience. Your body produces over 360 plus hormones on a daily basis. It must make these hormones in varying amounts. The entire endocrine system, which includes our adrenal glands, our thymus, our thyroid, our parathyroid, our pituitary that controls depression and, you know, cognitive functioning, as well as your ovaries and your testes, all require essential fatty acids. These essential fatty acids come from what we call omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9 oils. Those 3 oils come from those foods I mentioned earlier, which would be our cold water fish like salmon, mackerel, tuna, herring, things like that. Our soybean oil is very high in the omega-6s. And then we've got our flaxseed oil, which is like our omega-3, and our safflower, and our sunflower, and our rice bran oils. All of those provide your body with the building blocks for making hormones. If you don't have the oils coming into the body every single day, and it's hard to discern whether Kurt needs more omega-6 or Deborah needs more omega-9s. You can't really tell unless you do a very exorbitantly high, expensive test.
Oh, I see.
I don't do the test.
Okay.
I just kind of cover everyone's tush and say, take all 3 of them. You know, just let's do all 3 oils, do them every single day, and rotate your oils. So you'll find that men also are not getting their oils, and because a lot of men have cut out red meats. So they're not even getting saturated fatty acids. They're not getting unsaturated or saturated. So their hormones are beginning to drop off too, and you see oftentimes that people who are depressed or have that moodiness, you know, it really is an imbalance in their body chemistry. And it's somewhat more provoked as we age, because all of a sudden when you hit 45-ish, you know, your body degenerates so much faster than it regenerates. So you better have your building blocks in place.
I see.
Otherwise, you're going to deal with some things that you don't want to deal with, like mood swings, like depression, like, you know, cravings, etc. And it can happen to men just as well as it can happen to women.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mineral status. How do I know?
Well, minerals are really important. And I'll give you a quick overview on mineral status in the United States. The Department of Agriculture just did a study 2 summers ago on our grain belt throughout the Midwest. So they studied the soil composition as well as the water potability of, or the mineral status within the water and within the soil status across the agricultural belt. And they found that the results were actually, quote unquote, appalling, meaning that we have no minerals left, just pesticide and insecticide residues in our soil, which wipes out minerals, and the water is not even potable, meaning that we can't even wash nor drink or use it for like bathing. So what that means to me as a nutritionist is that everybody needs to be very aware that if they don't start supplementing with minerals, they're in big trouble. And the most vital minerals that work with essential fatty acids to maintain and create the hormones that our body needs every day are zinc, selenium, chromium, manganese is a big one. Lots of people are missing manganese, and it's a little baby trace mineral. He's like the little kid that's always taken behind the big minerals going, can I play too? Oh, there he goes. He just got left behind again. Wiped him out with that cup of coffee we did. So manganese and magnesium is vital, and magnesium is very important for people with neuromuscular problems, musculoskeletal problems, and cramps. I mean, women who have a lot of, you know, bloating and breast tenderness and cramping during their period, they're missing magnesium, not necessarily calcium. And what I'm seeing is everyone's taking calcium. Not everyone needs calcium. If you get too much calcium, it actually deposits in the thyroid and lowers your immunity, makes you tired, and keeps your body from functioning optimally, creating energy. So you've got to really assess yourself accurately. And the one thing I use in my practice is a hair tissue mineral test. I love it. You know, it gives you a very accurate reading on exactly what your mineral status is. It shows you what you're missing, what you have too much of, and it also shows you your heavy metal body burdens like arsenic, aluminum, mercury, lead. So if you have those heavier metals in the tissue, they'll block your minerals from being used even if you're taking them orally.
Oh, I see.
So you better get the bad guys out, or the good guys can never get in.
I see. Funny story, and this actually happened. I'm not just making this up. Today, and Deborah and I worked down the hall from each other, but there was a gentleman who I felt needed a hair analysis or whatever, and he said, I have very limited hair left on my head. Can she do a hair analysis without me cutting any of it? He was trying to think of a way she could just put him under the little, no,
he had
gentlemen.
A point. He had a point. So we could do toenail clippings, I guess. I'm not taking them, though. So.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so what is progesterone?
Progesterone is a hormone, and it is what I call a leader hormone, Kurt, meaning that we all have to have ample progesterone in the system to make every other hormone. In other words, if you don't have progesterone, you can't make other hormones in the correct quantities. So he's the guy that, you know, everyone has overlooked for years. Everyone's, you know, taking infusion of estrogen, men are taking testosterone. You don't need those hormones because actually your body cannot degrade those hormones readily, the estrogen and testosterone. If you get too much of them, you create problems for yourself. We know that there's an estrogen link with too much, or excessive estrogen link with breast cancer and uterine cancer. And we see women who have too much estrogen create lots of fibroids and tumor formation and cystic formation, whether it's on the ovaries or on the uterus, etc. So estrogen needs to be controlled. Now what's happening in our world right now is there are so many phenol compounds that are being used as insecticide bases on our fruits and vegetables that in fact these phenol compounds mimic to the body estrogen. They kind of look like an estrogen molecule. So they come into the system and the receptor sites for estrogen go, oh, it's a buddy. And they link right into them. It's like a puzzle. And they link in and they fit perfectly. So what they do is they actually alter our ability to utilize estrogen. Now we've got these fake phenol compounds, which are cancer-causing agents, and we're taking estrogen on top of it. It's excessive, and there's no place for this excessive estrogen in birth control pills or in estradiol or one of those synthetic estrogens that many doctors give their patients to latch onto. That excessive estrogen builds up someplace else in the body and causes an aberration of tissue, which is cancer. So you don't need estrogen, you need progesterone. What progesterone does, and it does again come from oils, you know, you can also take it in a cream form, but the progesterone provides for the body the ability to take it in the liver. If you have excessive progesterone, it will go into the liver will degrade it and break it down and make estrogen from it, or testosterone, or aldosterone. So if you have ample progesterone, your body then can manage and balance every other hormone beneath it. So it's like a mama hormone, you know, you got to have it. You just
I was waiting to hear how you were going to draw this together and say,
yes.
mama hormones.
It's a mama hormone for both men and women. So, you know, when you see men who are depressed, honestly, I would give them progesterone before I'd give them anything else next to their good oils and balancing their mineral status. But I would put progesterone on that person every single day. Until, you know, you can do some really great testing, saliva testing, to see what estrogen and progesterone status is. And it's simple, it's non-invasive, it's not expensive, it's very, very conclusive. So that's what progesterone is. You got to have it. Yes.
Birth control for menopause or PMS.
Well, a lot of women are taking birth control, again, which is excessive estrogen, which is not good. And all it's doing is altering your basic progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, aldosterone status, and that's not right. So you'll find a lot of women, once they've been on, you know, a fake or a stimulating estrogen supplement or substitute for a long period of time, completely lower progesterone status. They can no longer even make it. And especially if their diet is regulated by carbohydrates over good lean proteins, and I'm not just talking about chicken. I'm talking about cold water fish here for proteins. I'm talking about really good gamey meats like venison and buffalo, you know, and duck, these exercised animals that have low cholesterol and high unsaturated fatty acid content. So if you're consuming your oils and your proteins, you're going to then have some of the components that will help to make progesterone in the system, along with your trace minerals again. So if you have all of the players ready in the field, we've got a baseball game going on here. You know, we can hit a home run. If you don't, you can't. And you'll just know it in the way people feel. I mean, you see people all the time who are tired, and you just balance their body chemistry, and they feel like $1 million in a couple weeks. It's so simple, Kurt. It's just amazing to me that the American Medical Association hasn't approached health from this standpoint. You know, it's just so simple, and I see such amazing things. The body is an amazing tool. The Lord has given us such a cornucopia to work from on this planet. You know, we have everything at our disposal. You better hurry up before you ruin it all. But, you know.
But you know, what you're doing is you're ameliorating our awareness level, so that we can see just how simple it actually is, because we thought it was very complex, and we were giving our power away. And you're giving it back to us by saying, here, it's here for everybody.
Well,
All right, so where does
yeah.
progesterone come from?
Progesterone comes from plants primarily. So you can get natural progesterones from soybean, from walnut, from different legumes and beans, like our navy beans, our kidney beans. They have a smaller amount, but soybeans are the highest in progesterone. Then we have them from our cold water seeds and nuts, our cold water fish and our seeds and nuts, like English walnut is extremely high in progesterone. So walnut oils would be marvelous. I mean, I take walnut oil like on a Sunday and I'll heat it a little bit up in the pan. You never take an oil to the spatter point or the bubbling point, because then you break the molecular bond and you render it basically useless or rancid. So you just heat that oil a little bit, and I take sweet potatoes or yams and I smash them on top of the walnut oil. You know, I make a patty out of them and I sprinkle walnuts on top and a little bit of honey. It is so good. So I know the sweet potatoes are also extremely high in progesterone.
Oh, they are?
So you'll see that yams, in particular Mexican yams, which is the component found in progesterone cream. You know what, I brought it, I forgot to bring it out to show it to you, but it's a simple cream. I use it. I use it for my clients who have really bad PMS, and there's another cream that's a little bit higher in the natural wild yam extract that you use for menopause.
Now, is this the same as a progesterone cream? Or?
It's a progesterone-based cream, exactly. And you can get this cream certainly from any, health providers such as myself. Some doctors are beginning to carry it, and most health food stores have it. So it's a component, it's actually compiled of aloe vera, and there's vitamin E, which helps absorb progesterone, a little bit of alcohol in the cream, which helps, get it into the skin, and you apply it basically on very thin-skinned areas, like the wrist, the clavicle area, around the breast, or under the breast, and the groin area, etc.
Oh, that's great.
But you do
How
not
long does it
use
take to balance once you...
Good question. Good question. It takes about 3 months for most people to regulate your hormone. I don't care if you go on a synthetic hormone, and sometimes they never regulate, but it takes 3 months, unless you're like my 3-week lady today, who really was so desperately needing of it, and she doesn't have a lot of other health concerns getting in the way of balancing.
That's a great story, by the way. I'd love to hear successes.
I had a guy call me one time who thanked me for giving him back his wife.
I understand that.
For giving me back my wife. I was like, where was she?
Yes.
But he was like, she's been miserable to live with for over 5 years. And I was like, well, I'm glad. I mean, she did it. I just showed her how. So.
But she listened.
Yeah, she listened.
That's really good. There is hope then.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You become addicted to feeling good. It really is. It's like addictive.
That's interesting. Yes.
Unless you're just so miserable. A lot of people are walking around not knowing that they don't feel good. But most women really notice PMS. I mean, my sister called me yesterday and she said, I need help now. I'm going crazy. I want to rip the
I
kids'
need help, and I need help now. That's right. Well, there is someone, and I had someone come in and they said, listen, I'm really concerned because the physician or the health person that I was going to said that there really isn't PMS. And what you've shown us today is that it's not only authentic, but there's some chemical basis to it.
Most assuredly there is a chemical basis for it. It's simply being unbalanced. Once the body is balanced, Kurt, everything straightens out. Some people may take longer than others, but I mean, there is a man that I've been working with, and you know him, and you worked on him a couple times. This man had so many problems when he came in, and he's 60-some years old, so it's not like the body heals overnight either when you're that age. But you know what? He looks like a different person. His color was the color of this paper. He was so white and pasty. Now he has almost like this glow to his skin. He's dropped like 20 pounds. His body fat's come down, like 15% or something ridiculous.
Oh, that's marvelous. That's right.
And he feels like $1 million. Everything's working. Everything's working. Every system is working great. And he's married to a woman who's a little bit younger, so he's really happy. And he's very dedicated to taking care of himself. And he says, I'll never stop coming here. I'm like, good. You'll always be healthy then.
That's wonderful. So what you're doing is you're saying, hey, listen, don't despair. There's hope. And not only is there hope, there's information. And many people, and I see a lot of them also, they say, you know, well, there's really nothing I can really read that makes sense to me, but you always seem to come and put it in layman's terms, and you make it clear enough for all of us to understand it, and that's appreciated.
It's not that difficult. I mean, you know, as you know, I do seminars, and they're very affordable, and they're easy to access, and these seminars just basically give you the basic ABCs of nutrition. I mean, basically you can follow this protocol, because the protocol for all ill health is pretty much the same. Balance your body chemistry, increase your immunity, get your essential fatty acids in, and if it's still not working right, find out what your mineral status is. You know, we can take a look at a blood test or allergy test and things like that, but it's not that difficult for most people most of the time. We just don't know how to eat right anymore. No one's taught us.
I see, that's absolutely right.
Food.
Well, I don't know what this means, but the camera woman is saying, in this and in this now. I want her to know there's hope.
There's hope. Is she PMSing? I don't know.
I want to thank you very much for
it was
coming
great
again.
to be
I look
here.
forward to talking with you again. And certainly that wraps up another show for us. And I want you to know that we appreciate you watching. Thank you. I'm Kurt Hill, and this is Health Exposure.
You know what, Kurt, if I can say something really quick, just remind everybody, don't forget to eat your oils. They have to do their oils every single day. And there's something called Essential Balance by Arrowhead Mills, and this particular oil has the omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids. There's MCT, which is medium-chain triglyceride oils. Those are marvelous, and you buy these in health food stores, or we carry them over at, you know, my practice. And if you can't get those, then go and buy sesame oil or walnut oil or pumpkin oil or safflower and sunflower, and finish off a bottle. You know, I'm not saying every day, but, you know, rotate through bottle after bottle. Make sure you don't have too many oils laying around for too long, because they can become rancid. And consume maybe, you know, for the average person your size, 2 tablespoons a day in divided doses.
Okay.
So I typically take 2 teaspoons 3 times a day. And someone your size should probably take a tablespoon 3 times a day. Now you're probably going, oh no, I'm going to get really fat. No, you're not. These types of unsaturated fatty acids actually help to balance your insulin, which helps you to burn fat.
Okay.
So that's important to know as well.
So you're telling me it's okay for me to go out and get oil?
Yes. Not
exactly.
Mazola.
Not Mazola,
okay.
but...
And not olive oil. A lot of people are consuming olive oil thinking that that's
glad you brought that up.
the cure-all.
I'm glad you brought that up,
Right.
because it's not the same, right?
No,
So,
it's not. It actually, olive oil has a higher percentage of saturated fatty acids, along with monounsaturated fatty acids. We're talking polyunsaturated oils versus the mono and the saturated. So for some people who have a greater percentage of body fat, when you consume olive oil, the saturated molecular part of that oil creates more fat stores.
Okay, we got it in.
Okay.
Now we have to slide on out of here.
Alrighty.
Thank you very much.
It was great being here.
Thank you.